Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with Darcy Luoma, who wrote a book called Thoughtfully Fit and actually training teams and organization on that. Fascinating conversation based on a lot of research and experience. Enjoy the conversation with Darcy Luoma. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. And today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with Darcy Luoma. Darcy has been working for years as a coach, as helping teams in terms of their communication and working better together. She has worked for, I think, over 500 different organizations all over the world. A lot of knowledge. She wrote a book called Thoughtfully Fit, which is here. And I'm so glad you're taking the time to speak with me today, Darcy.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So my first question, I always ask my guests about that because I'm very curious and I think that everyone has their own journey. What's your story?
Yeah, my story, I'll start with the current. I'm a single mom. I have two teenage daughters who are 16 and 17. They are sassy and independent and fun. And the joy of my life leading up to that, to where I am now. And I own a business that focuses on creating high-performing people and teams. The first couple of decades of my professional career, I spent in government and politics, essentially. And I escaped, I say lovingly, when the U.S. Senator that I was working for the last 12 years, when he retired and didn't seek re-election. That was, he announced in 2012. I hired a coach and everybody assumed I would be staying in the government nonprofit campaign sector. And she said, Darcy, if in 10 years you looked back and had no regrets, what would you do? And oh my God, Eric, that just was the best question ever. I said, I'd launch my own business. I'd become a coach and a speaker and a trainer. And so I shut down the senator's office January 2nd, 2013, and January 3rd launched my business. And my husband at the time was a full-time stay-at-home dad and took care of our two young daughters and allowed me then to go all in because the research shows that majority of small businesses fail in the first 2 years. Mm-hmm. And so that allowed me to be able to really jump into developing my business. And let me pause there because I could just go on, but I want to be respectful of going in the direction you'd like.
No. My direction is listening to you and to the guests. I always have this quote in my mind: "Be gentle with someone you don't know the battle they're going through," and I think that applies for everyone, really. And so, please, by all means, continue and share your journey with us.
Well, I mean, that's a very powerful quote, and it speaks deeply to me personally because the battle that I went through after I had launched my business, it was March. So I launched in 2013, and then on March 17th of 2016, I got a phone call from my neighbor, and she said, Darcy, what is going on at your house? There are 50 police cars and a SWAT team with guns surrounding your house. And they just took John out barefoot in handcuffs. I was like, what? What are you talking about? Clearly, they have the wrong guy. It was just insane. Well, they didn't have the wrong guy. My husband was arrested that day, and he never came home. I found out later, was arrested for sexual assault of a 15-year-old girl. And he ultimately was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison. And so all of a sudden, I became not only a business owner, but now a single mom with 100% sole custody, navigating the legal system, getting a divorce the day before our 10-year anniversary, and the week before we were going to do a big spring break trip and rent an RV. It was just a nightmare. It was so insane. And what's interesting about your quote, Eric, is as I worked to heal and recover from that trauma and eventually wrote a book about it, I have found that everybody has something in their story that they are traumatized by. What not everybody has something like this where it was in the nightly news and social media and mugshots, but everybody has challenges and hurdles that they've overcome.
No, absolutely. I can not even start to imagining what it meant. That life is wonderful, and suddenly, boom, everything is shattered. Yeah.
Boom. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in less than 15 minutes, I went from, I had a beautiful fairy tale life with a husband and kids and a business, and it went from fairy tale to nightmare. I mean, with one phone call. And that really knocked me off my feet for quite some time.
Yeah. And I really encourage people to read your book, Thoughtfully Fit. First of all, to see what it means to go through terrible challenges and overcome them, but also obviously about the content, which we're gonna talk in a moment. What I think is also very interesting is your situation at that moment as a business owner, a single mom. I know a lot of friends that are in the same situation. So, what would be your experience share, your advice for them to overcome challenges and to keep looking forward and putting one step after the other?
Yeah. So I would say what's interesting is the Thoughtfully Fit model that I created. I had been spending 2 years doing a deep dive researching it to help my clients navigate their challenges and their hurdles. And it was finalized March 12th, 2016. And we hired a PR consultant and a strategic planning firm to put it boldly into the universe, Thoughtfully Fit. 5 days later, my husband was arrested. And I became ground zero to test drive in my own life these concepts that I had and this model that I had designed to help my clients who were having struggles and challenges. And so I think for me, what was most powerful, if I really simplified it, is at the core of the model are 3 simple steps. When you are challenged, blindsided, treated unfairly, have an opportunity, and you're like, oh, I don't know if I should say yes or no. Step 1 is to pause. Step 2 is to think. And step 3 is to act.
Yeah.
And so if somebody's going through something right now, first of all, I want to just say my heart's with you. And there's a quote, John Lennon, I think, and I don't know that I'll quote it exactly, but he said basically, everything will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. So if somebody's going through something, it's going to be okay. I'm a testament to that. But when I was going through it, I didn't think it would be okay. And there were multiple times where I had to pause and take a breath and think, okay, how do I want to show up in this moment and act thoughtfully? Because I was really blindsided and had a lot of challenges on a daily basis.
I love the concept of pause, think, act. Especially personally, the pause is sometimes extremely hard for something I'm passionate about. So when you see injustice or when you see something which is totally opposite to your values, what is your advice to be able to pause? Start with.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, Eric, because what I have found as I've worked with thousands of people on this model now is that we all have a default preference. We all have a strength, a go-to response. Some people are really good at pausing. That's not the challenge. But our strengths taken to the extreme become a weakness. And so they're good at pausing, but then it becomes a 5-hour Netflix binge and avoidance.
Yeah.
Right. Some people are really good at thinking and like, okay, let me try on every different angle, every possible solution, every possible perspective. But they think and get analysis paralysis and never actually pull the trigger to go and take action. Some people are really good at acting. Something happens, they're on it, right? Just let's go. But unfortunately, that strength, the negative side of that is they react impulsively and they fire off that email in a moment of anger, or they hit reply all. So if your fans, your audience is sitting here going like, ooh, yeah, I'm really good at acting, but that pause is hard. One of the tips, one of the structures that has helped me and that I work with my clients on is the pause pinch. And so you can, put up your left hand and with your right hand, and I'm trying to describe it for people who aren't watching the video, squeeze so the left hand is like a shape of an L. The right hand, squeeze in between the webbing right here.
Yeah.
And breathe and count to 3. Now, the cool thing is, this is a reflexology point. So it's going to immediately reduce your tension and calm your nerves. Second thing is, you can do it on a Zoom meeting on your lap. You can do it in person behind your back, and nobody needs to know. And so if that pause is hard for you, you get triggered and you react, pinch right there and breathe and count to 3 and set yourself up to give yourself a moment to think, how do I want to show up right now? What's the best future version self of me say that I should do? What's going on that I'm feeling so angry and triggered in this moment? And then act from that place of new awareness.
Excellent. So I got the pause. I think I got the think. What about the act, especially in a world where everything is sanitized, where political correctness and woke culture seems to be now the dictators of how we live? You said something about the Thoughtfully Fit gym is a place where you can train as an individual and as a team. How do you train that? And how do you train yourself to act and still, defend the values that are important for society?
Yes. So Thoughtfully Fit is a metaphor that if you want to handle your challenges thoughtfully, if you want to be intentional and mindful in how you live your life, you need to train and practice. That if you're blindsided and somebody, attacks you, and your reaction immediately is to get defensive, that's your autopilot response. You need to train and practice to slow down, to pause, to think, and to act with emotional intelligence, to self-manage. That doesn't naturally happen. You need to train and practice. It's a metaphor for just like if you want to be physically fit, you need to train and practice. You couldn't wake up tomorrow any more than I could and do a marathon if we haven't been training and practicing.
Right.
So, and of course, just like being physically fit, you can train and practice on your own, but there are gyms that you can go where you can get a coach and you can have some accountability and some structure. And so that's what we've designed with the Thoughtfully Fit gym. Anybody can train and practice to be thoughtfully fit in your own way, and we've got blogs and videos and the book, but we designed the Thoughtfully Fit gym so that people could go to have micro learning and bite-sized workouts on a regular basis to address the challenges. So sometimes you need to have a tough conversation and you're really good at not overreacting in the moment. And you're really good at analyzing and thinking about what you want to say and creating your message triangle and your talking points, but you never actually go have that conversation because acting is too intimidating. You're scared, or you think, oh, it's just going to get better on its own. Those are the things where you need to train and practice and say, okay, I've got a plan. I'm now going to go have this conversation. The acting is as important as the pausing and thinking, but you have to do all 3 in order. And now I got off on this tangent and I don't even know if I answered your question, Eric.
No, you started to, but how you remain fit with that is training. The other thing, I guess I'll elaborate on something else that you mentioned. You said that all team experience conflict and that's okay. And in my experience, especially with those people who said, we need to become comfortable to have uncomfortable conversation. Well, that's very nice until you start having uncomfortable conversation. Then they're trying to cancel you, or it's almost impossible now to have a conversation with this type of people.
Yes. And here's what's interesting, that the highest performing teams have a lot of conflict. And sometimes people are surprised by that, saying, don't they have a lot of harmony? Well, yes, they have harmony, but they have a psychologically safe space to be able to disagree with each other. And that's what conflict is. It's disagreeing. But the key is that they're doing it, they're having those disagreements in a thoughtfully fit way. So instead of you, if I'm on a team with you and you bring in some idea to one of our weekly meetings and I lash out and say, well, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And all of a sudden you get defensive. And now We've got blaming and criticism and defensiveness. And then eventually there's contempt. And then there's a little bit of stonewalling because I'm shutting down because I'm emotionally flooded. The difference is with teams is that you are disagreeing and having conflict in a way that others can hear you. So it may look like, gosh, Eric, I'm hearing your idea for this project and I appreciate that perspective. I see it a little differently. And I'm wondering if I can share how I might go about this differently than what you've laid out as the plan. To which, instead of getting defensive and shutting down, you might be like, yeah, I'm curious. What would you do differently? So I'm still disagreeing with you. There's still going to be some conflict and tension, but you're leaning in because I'm doing it in a way with a soft startup, really practicing that muscle of being thoughtfully fit in how I'm having that conversation.
I love it. You said something about safe space. And again, I'm very sarcastic. So they don't, right? Every time I hear that now, I think that there is no safe space. There are safe people that create an environment where you can be yourself and you can disagree with each other as long as you focus on the goal of the company, the goal of the team. What is your thought on that and how to create such an environment as a leader so that your team feel comfortable disagreeing even with you and contributing to the benefit of the organization?
Yeah, you bet. And when a team is made up of people where there is safety, where there is trust, you can create a psychologically safe culture. You can create a safe space. But you're right. The space doesn't come first. It's the relationships and the dynamics of how people are showing up. So if you've got a leader, you have a CEO, you have a manager of the team who wants to create that psychologically safe space, what's crazy is you articulate that and plan for it and design a team alliance that says, what's the atmosphere and culture that we want to have on this team? How do we want to disagree with each other? How do we want to have healthy fights? How do we want to have conflict? And what helps you to really flourish and thrive in a team environment? And so if you design that and talk about it up front, amazingly, not so magically, it happens, right? You increase the chances that if the team says, we want to create a culture where we feel okay disagreeing with each other, then the next question is, great, what does that culture look like? How would we know if we had a safe space for people to disagree with each other? And then they talk about it and say, well, I would prefer that if somebody disagrees, instead of interrupting me, they wait till I'm done and then acknowledge what I've said and then say, can I offer another perspective? That would make it safe for me. That, for instance, this is one example.
Right.
Other people will chime in and talk through, but that's what's going to contribute, that you don't just hope and expect it happens any more than if you were going to do an Ironman, you say, gosh, I sure hope I can do that. You say, okay, what's the training plan?
Right.
What am I going to do? What's my program to set myself up for success?
Which means as well to set the rules at the beginning, that it's not because you're contributing that the final decision will be that. At the end of the day, somebody has to make the decision.
Yes, at the end of the day. And so here's what the research shows is that a successful business, a successful leader doesn't wait until there's consensus to make a decision, because it would be too late, right? You've lost the opportunity. You'd be moving too slow. But people need to weigh in to buy in. So if you, Eric, are the leader of that team and you say, okay, we got to make this big decision. Here's the decision that I think I'm going to make, but I want to hear what you guys think. And then you hear from everybody, they weigh in.
Yeah.
And you say, oh, this is interesting. Because of what I've heard, I'm actually going to change my decision a little bit. Thank you for that. And here's now what my new decision is. Regardless of whether you went with the original decision A or decision B or decision F, somebody in that team is not going to like your decision. That's okay. You want to have the strongest teams are diverse and they have different perspectives. So here's what's key. Once you say, I'm making decision B, thank you, this is really helpful. For those of you who disagreed, who wish I would make a different decision, what do you need to get behind this decision? And if you have that discussion right there and somebody says, because if you don't have that second part, what do you need to get behind this decision? They might leave and have a post-meeting meeting and they might sabotage the decision, or they might go to their team and say, well, I don't know, Eric made this decision. I think it's the wrong thing. And I think we should do this because he's only going to come back and realize it was the wrong decision. So let's not even get behind it. That happens all the time. So you basically, to summarize, you debate internally, defend externally.
Right. No, I totally agree with that. I personally always like to ask my team what they think before telling them what I'm planning to do. And I've seen it in the other way around in the past, where a so-called leader would come and tell his team, I'm planning to do this. What do you think? And people would go, oh, sure, I agree with you. So you don't get the feedback from everyone. But on your part of defending externally, which I totally concur with, isn't that supposed to be the rules of engagement from the beginning? In other words, we're going to discuss, we're going to ask everyone's opinion. Somebody's got to make the decision. If I'm the leader, it's my company. At the end of the day, I'm making the decision if there's not a consensus on that. But to your point of people talking at the water cooler afterwards, shouldn't those people actually not be part of the organization? Because I've been in places where I was discussing in the board and then I voiced my opinion and the decision was completely opposite. I get out of the board and I defend the board decision because this is part of the rules of engagement.
Yep. That's exactly how it's supposed to work.
But what if it's not?
But it's not. No. I've built a business and a successful business with abundance because it's not. It's not how people operate for lots of reasons. For instance, if that leader has not created a psychologically safe space for people to show up and to disagree, and I've seen this happen all the time, where the leader says, okay, I've got a decision to make. I want to hear what you guys think before I make it. And they've learned, oh yeah, last time I gave you my opinion, you shut me down. You embarrassed me. You told me how ridiculous that my opinion was. I learned I'm not doing that again. And then they'd say whatever needs to be said so that leader can make their decision that they're going to make regardless of what my opinion is. And then I'm going to leave and I'm going to go have that post-meeting meeting. I'm going to triangulate. I'm going to bring someone else in and say, I can't believe Eric made that decision. I can't either. And so now I feel better because I just vented to somebody. But now the anxiety spread in the system because I told somebody else. So instead of going directly to you, right, I have triangulated somebody else in and that anxiety spreads. Is that supposed to happen? No. Does it happen? All the time.
Right. And I get your point, and I'm totally with you in terms of not shutting down anyone. What I have issues to deal with is people that are accepting the rules, voicing their opinion, disagree with the final decision, and then start talking in the back. And for me, there's always three solutions. You lead, you follow, you get out of the way. But in this case,
Absolutely. So that's where what I said earlier, what do you need to get behind this decision? And then the other thing is, and this would probably be more of a one-on-one conversation instead of a conversation in the team,
right,
is that you come up to me and say, hey, Darcy, I noticed in the past that when I make a decision you disagree with, you go rogue, you sabotage, you go to your team and debate instead of defending the decision that I made. I'm noticing this and I want to talk through it with you. So that you've got the courage, again, that pause, think, act. So you, instead of in the moment being like, well, you're ridiculous and you're just sabotaging, you pause and think, okay, what's the best way to address the dynamic here that somebody is not getting behind my decision? And that maybe then the acting is you go have that courageous conversation,
right,
one-on-one, and you name it and you get curious.
Excellent. Now, just want to move the conversation to somebody who's working with you. Isn't that easier for a leader to actually bring Darcy or somebody like you into the game because it's not them imposing on the team, but they have an external facilitator with experience with, in your case, data and research?
So if I understand your question, I'll give you a short answer and then you tell me if you wanted me to go a different direction.
Yes.
But the ability to be able to have the courage to name your truth and do it with compassion so somebody else can hear it, and then have the curiosity to invite other people to name their truth and have courage. Those are skills that many leaders don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. There's right. We're all human and we all have different strengths. And so you might be a leader and your strength is in whatever the technical expertise is of your organization, but your strength isn't in leading and managing a team. That's okay. So then that's a time when, yeah, maybe you hire a team coach, you hire a facilitator, you hire a consultant. When I'm brought in, my goal is always to build up those skills with that leader and that team so that I work myself out of a job, so that the skills they're learning at some point, they're like, yeah, we got this. Gosh, Darcy, I'm asking those curious questions. I'm speaking my truth. I'm using a soft startup, the things that they weren't able to do previously that they learn, so that I'm not trying to create dependence that you need me forever. But in the process, it's kind of like if you want to learn how to downhill ski, you can rent the skis and you can get on that, that hill and going like, I don't know how to do this. And you might get down the hill, but it's probably not going to be pretty. And it's probably going to take a lot longer learning curve than if you hire a coach or a trainer and say, okay, help. And they're like, oh, yes, we're going to start on the bunny hill. And we're going to teach you pizza, then French fries, right? Like, here's how you do the snowplow. Here's how and you're like, oh, and all of a sudden, by the end of the day, you've got yourself on the green or the blue. Maybe you're not on the double black diamond,
right,
but you don't need your coach anymore to get on that green run or the blue run. That's what I'm working to do when I'm working with leaders and teams. Same thing.
Wonderful. You realize that your example of pizza and French fries and skiing is good because you're from Wisconsin, but doesn't work with people in Florida, right?
Very good point. Come visit me, Eric. We have great ski. Well, we actually don't have as great as skiing here as Colorado and some other places.
Right.
But yesterday it was snowing. And I want to just name,
wow.
I don't know when this will air, but it was October 31st and we got snow here.
Oh, wow. As they say in the South, bless your heart. So,
I love it.
what do you do when you have a very toxic person in a team that is not, after coaching and several conversation, he or she is still not playing the game?
I mean, if you've worked to coach them, you've had conversations, you've done performance reviews, given feedback, and they're not getting on board, yeah, let them go. Don't let the toxic person spread the toxins amongst the rest of the team. Because unfortunately, if you don't have the courage to let them go, the rest of the people, the whole morale of the team and the whole dynamics of that team culture are going to shift. And they're going to say, okay, if she gets away with that and there's no consequences, why am I behaving in this certain way? And it's going to have negative ramifications. It's going to have a ripple effect. So yeah, you got to let someone go.
Fully agree. And I wish I could speak like with you like hours. Well, obviously, a love experience, fascinating. I have two more questions for you today. The first,
how do you ski a double black diamond? Is that the first question?
Well, that I can enjoy as well, believe it or not. I love it. No, I'm losing my train of thought now.
I'm sorry. That was not very nice of me.
Yes, I got it back. So you're a business owner, you have kids, and you have a very successful practice, and you're speaking as well a lot. You're traveling a lot. How do you maintain sanity, and how do you maintain time for what matters to you?
It's an ongoing process, and I'm doing it better now than I ever have. And it's been a long journey and a steep learning curve. And so one of the things I'll say is you travel a lot relative to other people who are consultants and keynote speakers and facilitators. I don't. I've specifically designed my business where I am not living in an airplane because my kids, I want to know them. So that's one thing, which means I set really clear boundaries, and my executive assistant, we know how much I'm willing to travel and what that looks like so that I can have that work-life balance. couple other little things. I put in my calendar 6 days a week before anything else, my workouts. I work out 6 days a week, minimum of 45 minutes a day. That's just a given. I am a better leader. I'm a better mom. I'm a healthier person. I make better decisions when I have that. And it goes in my calendar first. The other thing that we've done that has really helped me is gotten really clear on what's my unique ability and what are the things that only I can do as the CEO and founder. And then we've been working the last several years, anything else we've got off my plate onto someone else's plate. That has been heaven. So I am no longer doing all the things that I thought I had to do.
Like what?
Right? Like what?
Yeah.
Oh
like
my
what?
gosh. I mean, I don't send proposals and agreements and invoices. I don't answer the phone. I don't check the voicemail. I am not the one who's creating the social media posts. I'm not the one who is designing in Canva the sparkly image. I'm not the one who is designing the PowerPoints and the handouts. I'm not the one who's writing the blog. I'm doing final approval of everything. Everything comes through me before it goes out, but I'm not doing any of that anymore.
Brilliant. Wonderful. Darcy, my last question. When we meet in 1 year and the next conference with a bottle of champagne, what are we going to celebrate?
I love that. Can we do this for real?
Of course.
Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, we have recently, last year, we made a bold decision in our business that we are going to transition from, we've always done B2B and B2C. So we work with organizations and we work with individuals. We have decided to narrow our focus and say we focus on teams and leaders and cultures. We are going all in on B2B. And that was a hard decision because I love working with individuals and life coaching and all of that. But we just, as part of our journey, have realized that that's where our passion lies. And so I hope in a year, what we can be celebrating is that we're transitioning the Thoughtfully Fit gym for organizations to be able to send their entire team to the gym, to be able to send their leaders and managers so that they can be training and practicing how to lead effectively, how to create that psychological safety, how to create a thoughtfully fit culture. So I hope that in a year, we have cracked that nut and have figured out how to transition fully to organization-based thoughtfully fit gym membership.
Wonderful. How do people get in touch with you?
So my website is darcyluoma.com. It's got all the links there. We're on, all the socials, Facebook and LinkedIn, and I don't even know, Twitter and Instagram. And that's probably the best place. And the email address, phone number, everything is on there.
Wonderful. And for people that are not English native like me, it's DARCY, Darcy, and Luoma, LUOMA.
Perfect.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for spending some time with me today.
It was such a pleasure and a delight. I absolutely loved it. The time went so quickly.
Thank you. Thank you, Darcy, for sharing your experience and insights with me. I absolutely loved it. And I know we can apply that in our business starting from now. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to connect with me, please go on LinkedIn or join the Facebook group www.eventbusinessformula.com/group. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please share it with your network. Thank you. Bye-bye.